So growing up, how many of you attended family reunions? Like that was a thing. That was a thing. You had them in your home. You went out to them. You went to them. I did too. For us, our family reunion looked more like Christmas. Our family's like really small. My dad has one brother, and it just all we had to do was gather up at Christmas. But that was our Christmas / family reunion. When you look at your summer and your plan, how many of you know you got the next one? Like you got the next one coming up. You're going to be a part of it. Bigger question, how many of you did family reunion so big you got the t-shirt? Anybody in here? I've seen those around. People have the family t-shirts. Anybody? That's it. Yeah, we never did that. We were so small, like just didn't make sense, right? It would just been kind of like 2 families on there, and that's it. But I'll tell you, while my family reunions, love my family, but the family reunions weren't that grandiose other than all those Christmas gifts I got. I did like that. But the best family reunion that I've ever been to is when I was able to start attending Amy, her family, they're Lindsay's. We attended the Lindsay family reunion, and Amy's dad, on his dad's side, has 68 first cousins. That's a big crew. They should have done the t-shirt. They didn't do the t-shirt, but here's the deal. If you are like Lindsay, that means they are Scottish. This is what it looked like at the Lindsay family reunion. I loved going because the men and the women, they dressed up. That's the Lindsay tartan. That on the front, that little bag is called the sporran. That's like authentic, real deal. If you can see his sock there, his sock right here, there's a little green ribbon. He has a knife in there, and that's called a skeen doom. I had to look at Amy and tell me, what's that called? It's called a skeen. Is that right? Am I saying it right? Skeen doom. I'll get it right next time. Okay, but I loved going to be a part of this. Amy's mom, Anna, she didn't have the kilt on, but the men wore the kilts, and they were everywhere. I mean, I loved it. There was so many of them. Just watching, I remember the first time I went, I was like, I saw one, like the first, Scottish dress. I looked at Amy, I said, is this what they do? She said, this is what they do. And I thought, rats, I wish I was a Lindsay, right? Can I take your last name and I can do the cool dress like this for family reunions? I mean, other than the cool regalia that they wore, the other thing that made me love their family reunion is that I didn't grow up in their family. And you think, well, that sounds weird. But by not growing up in their family, what that means is I didn't know the drama and I didn't know the trauma. I didn't know the stories. I didn't know the hurt. I didn't know who didn't like who, right? All I knew was, hey, there's great food and the desserts are great. Amy pointed out, don't eat that, don't eat that, and don't eat that, right? There's that part of the family reunion too, but I loved going and being a part. But the drama, the trauma, right? If you're like, well, we don't do family reunions, how about when you get everybody together for a wedding? There's drama and there's trauma. How about at Christmas, or how about you hate it, but when a funeral happens, that's another time when all families come together and there's drama and there's trauma. Right? When you think about a family reunion, it's the drama and the trauma that makes us not want to go. And if you're thinking, well, my family doesn't have drama and trauma, guess what? You're the drama. And you're the one that has brought the trauma. And everybody's walking on eggshells around you. But when you think about your family, you think about your family reunion and all these people that are in it. I don't know about you, but I think it's fair to say that all of us might have that crazy Uncle Larry, that one that you're just not so sure what's going to happen. Now, it'll be fun, but you're not so sure and you don't know if you want your kids around them, right? There's those people in your family. My family, we had, and I've changed the name to protect the innocents in case my family's watching online. We have an inevitably late Lori. She was always late. And we would sit and wait, and you would watch the tension just mount, even as a little kid. Maybe you have that one that's always late, right? Or you have Gossiping Greg. I don't have to say any more about Gossiping Greg. Your story's out there. Or does anybody have crazy, well, not crazy, but just Cousin Jackie? Cousin Jackie. Nobody knows for sure if she's part of the family, but Jackie shows up at everything. And she makes a mean potato salad, so nobody is going to ask any questions about Cousin Jackie. They just show up and they're a part and everybody's good with it. The thing about family reunions, the thing about families is that we all have them. The thing about our families is that we all have dysfunction. And when we look at this series that we're currently in, it's called Dreamer. What we're looking at is the family of Joseph. Joseph from the Old Testament, back in the book of Genesis, and we're looking at the life of Joseph. And we're looking at his extended family. And I'm going to tell you, there was lots of drama and there was lots of trauma. And one of the reasons we picked Joseph to look at is because of, regardless of what you think or believe about Jesus, what you think or believe about God and who he is and what's written in the Bible, we can all identify with Joseph's family because we all have trauma and we all have drama. So what we're going to do this morning as we wrap up, we are going to look at his life. We're going to see when there was a family reunion. When the family reunion happened, we're going to get front row seats to see drama and trauma. And then what we're going to do is we're going to look at specifically two options that we all have. And my hope this morning, as I've got us off and running here, is that maybe you're thinking about that person in your family that maybe frustrates you, that maybe is the cause of drama and trauma, right? Because what I hope, if you're thinking about that person, is that by the time we wrap up our time together, you begin to realize you have two choices. And there's two ways that you can move forward. And we're going to tackle that together. So here's a quick recap. Quick recap on Joseph. Joseph was a favored child. Joseph was the son of Jacob, and he had 12 brothers. He was the favorite, although he wasn't the oldest. So the fact that he was the favorite, he was the privileged one, those around him did not like him. They hated his privilege so much that they threw him in a pit. They threw him in a pit and said, we're going to kill him, and said, no, let's don't kill him. Let's just sell him into slavery. He was bought by a guy named Potiphar. He ended up in Potiphar's house, in the penthouse, running the entire home, running everything. And then Potiphar's wife accused him of having an affair, which was not true, and he ended up back in prison. He was in prison for a long time, and then eventually Pharaoh, the president, the head knocker of all of Egypt, realized that Joseph was able to interpret dreams. The dreams are where this all got started. Way back up here, Joseph had some dreams as like a middle-aged young teenager where he said his family was going to bow down to him. That started what ended up having him thrown into a pit, but that's also what moved him out of prison. When he interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, he heard about this and he came in and he said, well, I can't do it, but God can do it. What he told him was that there was going to be 7 years of abundance, 7 years where the crops were going to grow so much you can't even count them, and that's what happened. Joseph said, hey, you know what we need to do? We better save up. We better store up 20% of that, because when the famine hits, it's going to be so bad, nobody remembers the 7 good years. And that's exactly what happened. So when there was famine, when there was no food, not just in Egypt, but all over the world, picture that, all over the world, it says, there was this incredible famine, and everybody came to Joseph to buy their grain. Pharaoh said, hey, you're the number 2 guy. Like, you're the VP of all of Egypt. You have the power. And off everybody went, eventually coming before Joseph. And that's where we're going to pick up our story this morning. Just a quick recap. In chapter 42, we see the first time Joseph's brothers came to him. They came to him because they were out of food. Now remember, they have no idea this is their brother. And it said as soon as Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them. That's what I want you to point out, that he knew them right out of the gate. He knew who they were, but he pretended to be a stranger. He even spoke in a foreign language, and he spoke harshly to them. He treated them harsh. Today, the two emotions that we're going to look at, the two actions, really, I guess it's action and emotion, kind of goes together, are these two words right here. What Joseph had was the opportunity when he saw them the first time to take revenge, or when he saw them to extend forgiveness. Take revenge or extend forgiveness. You and I hope you process through our time together, have this same opportunity. When you think about your family, your extended family, you think about that one that's hurt you. You think about that one that maybe didn't hurt you, but they hurt someone you loved. And so because they hurt that person, you're mad at that person, right? And you want to take revenge against them, right? We all have this opportunity, just as Joseph did that first time he saw them bowing down in front of him, to take revenge or to extend forgiveness. That's where we're going to land the plane today. This is what we're all going to wrestle with, and I've been wrestling with since I began thinking about this series. This is where the rubber meets the road. So Joseph sent them all home, sent his brothers home. In chapter 43, verse 29, they came back because they were out of food again. He told them, when you come back, you better bring his biological brother Benjamin with him. What it says is, as he looked about and saw his brother Benjamin, they were there. Benjamin was there. His own mother's son. The thing is about those 12 boys is that Jacob had 4 wives, and Joseph and Benjamin were biological brothers, same mom, same dad. So Joseph wanted to see his brother, his own mother's son. He asked, is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about? So now he's getting to see them for the first time. Think about the emotion. He hasn't seen him. I don't know how much younger Benjamin was than Jacob, but what we knew is at age 17, I said Benjamin was younger than Jacob. Benjamin was younger than Joseph. But we know at age 17, Joseph was sold into slavery. She hasn't seen him now in he's now 37, almost 20 years, if not more. So as they meet back up, we get to see the emotion that Joseph had. Revenge, forgiveness. Verse 29 says, deeply moved. Tons of emotion here. Deeply moved at the sight of his brother, Joseph hurried out and looked for a place to weep. Remember, he's the number 2 guy. He runs out. He's not going to weep in front of them and all of his attendants. It says he went into his private room and wept there. As chapter 43 wraps up, what we read is that he ended up feeding them. He sat them oldest to youngest. In their culture, the Egyptians didn't eat with the Hebrews, so they were by themselves eating. Remember, they still don't know who he is, right? And now he starts testing them. Joseph now wants to see, have they had a heart change? So while they're sitting and eating and he's not in the room with them, he gave Benjamin 5 times as much food as everybody else. He was very obvious with favoritism. He wanted to see what that was going to look like for them. And through the end of the chapter, it says that they feasted and drank freely. They had a party. He took care of them. Chapter 44, we dig in. I'm going to recap it. I'm just going to overview it real quick. Here's the deal. Joseph then said, hey, send them on their way, fill their bags with grain, put their money back in their bags again. Don't charge them for their grain again, right? You begin to see revenge, forgiveness, but he's testing them. He already tested them to see, what are you going to do when I show favoritism to Benjamin, who was also Joseph's dad, Jacob. He was his favorite as well. So he sent them on their way, and he put his silver cup. It's a big deal. He put his silver cup in Benjamin's bag. And then he told his steward, hey, when they take off a little bit, follow them and go stop them and accuse them of stealing my silver cup. You don't steal from the number 2 guy. He got there, he accused them, said, hey, you stole his cup. They're like, no, we didn't. They said, hey, if we stole it, then you can kill the one who stole it and the rest of us will be your slave. And the steward said, no, how about this? Just whoever stole it is going to be my slave. The rest of you can go free. So he goes through the bags. And since he put the cup in Benjamin's bag, it was no surprise to him. He pulled it out. He's like, hey, look what I found. I found the cup. And now they're headed back. They're headed back to the palace to engage with Joseph. They have no idea. They have no idea who he is. They just think they're in trouble again. And they think that Benjamin is now going to be a slave. And quick flashback, Judah, one of the brothers, told his dad, I will make sure he comes back or you can kill me. And they all knew there was no way we could go back without Benjamin. But in this moment, they're sitting before the number 2 guy who's accusing them of stealing a silver cup, and their brother Benjamin is going to prison. Is going to be a slave. Take all that emotion, right? And we're going to look at chapter 43. Verse 33. This is what Judah said. How can I go back to my father? If the boy is not with me, no, do not let me see the misery that would come on my father. Joseph was trying to see, is there a heart change? What are you going to do when I give him more food and show favoritism? What are you going to do when you have the opportunity to sell him into slavery just like you sold me into slavery? And he just sat back and watched. He watched it play out. Remember, Judah, the one who made this statement right here, is the one whose idea it was to put him into slavery. And now Judah steps up and says, hey, wait a minute, we cannot do this. So that's the emotion as we jump into chapter 45. That's what they're seeing. Joseph still is in all the power, and he can make a decision on which way that he goes. Revenge, forgiveness. We have that same choice. Revenge, forgiveness. Chapter 45, verse 1 says, then Joseph could no longer control himself before all his attendants. And he cried out, have everyone leave my presence. Everyone. And when he spoke, I'm sure everybody scurried, right? The emotion that's feeling there, he's feeling a very different emotion. His brothers are probably so terrified. And in verse 2, we get to see how he cried. We're going to see how his brothers responded. It says, so there was no one with Joseph when he made himself known to his brothers. And he wept so loudly, not just a little fake cry, not just a little like, let me control my cry. He let it out. He wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard him, and Pharaoh's household heard about it. Verse 3, it goes on. Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. I can't imagine. I can't imagine the emotion on either side of the coin. He said, I am Joseph. And then he asked, is my father still living? That's who he cares for the most. I want to know about dad. How's dad? But his brothers were not able to answer, right? Shocker, not shocker. They're like, what is going on? Who is this guy? Because they were terrified at his presence. Terrified. They're thinking revenge, forgiveness. Revenge, forget what's about to happen. He knows us, we now know him, and this is what has happened to him. Verse 4 continues. Then Joseph said to his brothers, come close to me. When they had done so, and I can't imagine this happened very quickly. That was probably like sheepish and like, what's about to happen? He said to them again, I am your brother. And in case you forgot, the one you sold into Egypt. That's me. I'm here. I love this. Verse 5. What he tells them, he says, and now do not be distressed. So they're probably like starting to breathe. They probably all were holding their breath right up until that moment. Do not be distressed. And do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. Because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. What a perspective. What a perspective for Joseph. Right? I mean, I couldn't even imagine. Like, I hope I would be able to do this. I hope I'd be able to look back and see the sorrow and to be able to make a statement like this. Hey, don't be distressed and don't be angry because of how poorly you treated me. Right? He said, but it was God that sent me ahead. Verse 6, he continues to explain more. He tells them, hey, for 2 more years, for 2 years now, there's been a famine in the land, and for the next 5, there will be no plowing and no reaping. Verse 7 says, but God sent me. But God sent me ahead of you to preserve for you a remnant of the earth and to save your lives by a great deliverance. The but God phrase. For some of you today, you may still feel like verse 6. You're in the famine and you see a whole lot more coming and you don't see a way out. I just want to pause and let you know, but God. Just as God delivered his brothers and delivered the whole world, really because of Joseph, one godly man, that God can do the same for you. Wherever you are in life, it is possible. You are not too far gone. You have not done the unspeakable, the unthinkable. The beautiful thing is that but God is there, and but God has the power to impact each and every one of our lives. If you checked out for a second, check back in right here, because verse 8 is powerful. Verse 8 says, so then, he's still talking to his brothers. So then, it was not you who sent me here, but God. In your life, are you at a spot where you can be like, but God. Like, that's the only reason I can say all this is going where it is. It may look horrible from the outside, but God. How incredible to me. We're going to skip ahead to verse 14. It talks about what Joseph did. Then he, Joseph, threw his arms around his brother Benjamin and wept. And Benjamin embraced him weeping. And he kissed all his brothers and wept over them. There's the family reunion. The drama, the trauma, the ending, right? It all came together. It was amazing. It turned out so well that even Pharaoh heard about it. Pharaoh got so excited about it. He said, hey, let's reunite the entire family. And he sent them back off to go get Jacob and all their descendants. Pharaoh sent carts. Pharaoh sent part of his guys. He said, go help them out. And he told them, don't get all your stuff. Just get what you need, because I'm going to give you the best of the best when you get back. And I'm going to give you this most incredible piece of land for you to keep farming and being shepherds of your sheep. And life is going to be great. And that's what happened. About 70 of them moved in. And life went well. The family reunion, everybody's like, yes, we love our brother. Now, however, fast forward. We're going to look at Genesis chapter 50, verse 15. Because eventually dad passes away. Jacob passes away. And then it says, when Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, what if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back, not for the one thing, but for all the wrongs we did to him? All these years, we're talking over 40 years, they've lived in fear. They, for themselves, have had unresolved guilt that they have carried around. And now that they have seen that their father's passed away, they're thinking, uh-oh, now he's going to drop the hammer. Now he's going to carry a grudge. Do any of you carry grudges? Are there people in your life that if someone in your family or someone close to you, when they pass away, are they thinking, uh-oh, this is going to get bad? I think we all have to ask ourselves that as we look at this story, where do we see ourselves in this? Are we causing others to think, uh-oh, this is going to be bad one day? Because they know you, we may carry a grudge. But when we look at verse 20, still in chapter 50, I love what we get to read right here. And this is one of those verses that you'll hear quoted or misquoted or kind of quoted. But it's a great verse. It says Joseph is speaking to his brothers. He said, you intended to harm me. This is after he had heard what they had said and what their concern was. But God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. What you intended for harm, God intended for good. And he's looking at them. And as you think about that moment, revenge, forgiveness. Revenge, forgiveness. It says, if you read all of chapter 50, that Joseph began to weep when he heard that his brothers were so concerned that he was going to take revenge against them. It hurt him. He knew in his heart where he was on this. He knew that they were thinking revenge, but he was thinking and feeling forgiveness. As we wrap up Joseph, do you sit and wait? Do you sit and wait for revenge? Is there somebody in your life that you're like, oh, I'm going to get them? Is your personality or the way you think or the way you're wired, do you feel like if you aren't able to take revenge, then they're getting let off the hook because you owe them, they owe you, they've hurt you. And you're thinking, just wait till I get my moment. Oh, and I'm going to get them. You know, I think regardless of what we believe about who God is, there's a piece of that in each and every one of us. I don't believe there's any exemptions. And I believe that because we all live in this sin-filled, broken world where it feels like many times we get ran over, where it feels like many times we get hurt, and where it feels like many times we owe them, and that God is saying, go get them. But we have a choice. We have a choice. Are we going to take that revenge, or are we going to seek forgiveness? I'm going to bounce us forward into the New Testament. Paul, the writer of Romans, this is what he said in Romans chapter 12, verse 17. He says, do not repay any evil for evil. He was talking to people that were Christ followers who were saying, hey, I want to live my life like Jesus. He said, well, hey, here's one way that you do it. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. If it is possible, go ahead and go to that now. If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. As far as it depends on you, live at peace. Verse 19 says, do not take revenge, my dear friends. And I'm going to pause right here, but leave room for. What do we leave room for? If I can't take revenge, then what am I leaving room for? I love this. Leave room for God's wrath. For it is written, and Paul is quoting the book of Deuteronomy, the 5th book in the Old Testament. Paul, remember, is Jewish. So these Jewish sayings and Jewish teachings, he grew up with them. So he remembered this being said to him. He says, leave room for God's wrath, for it is written in the book of Deuteronomy, it is mine to avenge. I will repay, says the Lord. I will repay. We must leave room. When we think about revenge, right, doesn't revenge feel better? But there's this cycle that goes with revenge. When we forget and when we don't leave room for God's wrath, we get into this cycle of revenge, and revenge creates a cycle of anger and pain. Anger because you want to get them, and pain because you're carrying around something. You're renting space in your head, your heart, and your soul to someone that hurt you, who probably has already forgotten about it, by the way, but you carry it because we forget that we must leave room for God's wrath. When we think about forgiveness, well, what happens when we forgive? Well, forgiveness creates an opportunity for peace and healing. Forgiveness is free, right? We are free to forgive someone. And here's the thing. I'm not saying you forgive and then you begin to trust, you let them right back in on your inner circle. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying you forgive them. Forgiveness deals with the past. Trust is built over time in the future. They don't happen simultaneously. You can forgive the past and then figure out the future day by day, slowly as you move forward. You can forgive in the present and set up a nice, healthy boundary. Dr. Henry Cloud has a great book called Boundaries. And you can set a nice, healthy boundary. Even though I've forgiven you, I will take time and see if I can regain my trust in you. Two totally different things. But you have a choice. Anger and pain, or peace and healing. Anger and pain, or peace and healing. The opportunity that I hope we will begin to seek is peace and healing. But reading about it or hearing about it in the book of Genesis in Joseph's life is a lot easier, right? Than actually doing it ourselves. It's extremely difficult to forgive and to seek the opportunity for peace and healing. Is there somebody you need to forgive? Are you living here but you want to be here? Have you created a cycle of anger and pain but you would love the opportunity for peace and healing? It is possible. And here's what I've seen. Here's what I've seen. When we are willing to forgive, we lose that toxic emotion of anger. For that situation, we can still get angry, but for that situation, we lose that toxic emotion that's been dragging us. When we forgive, we let go of that negative thing. right? And we all have probably that thing, and we're able to let go of that negative emotion. Have you thought about what it would feel like to cancel the debt for someone in your life? Again, they've probably already forgotten all about it. But when we forgive and we begin to find that peace and healing, it comes through canceling the debt of those who've hurt you. See, when we think about forgiving, we're able to let go of the past and we're able to look toward a healthy future. Imagine what that would feel like in your life. The weight, the debt that you continue to carry is gone, is lifted. Maybe just knowing today that you can forgive and you don't have to trust at the same time, that's the peace that you needed. Imagine being able to see the future, to know that God is with you. Regardless of what your circumstances are, know that but God is with you. And whatever was behind you, he can work through that and move toward this future. Doesn't mean everything is going to be perfect. But what I love is that regardless of where you've been in life, God is with each and every one of us. For those, maybe you've never put your trust in Jesus and you're like, but I don't know how to get rid of that weight. I would tell you that first step is to put your trust into him. And then for those of you who've put your trust in Jesus, imagine what it looks like to not just tiptoe in, but to jump in with both feet and to say, God, I'm going to forgive the person that's hurt me. And then I'm going to trust. I'm going to trust that you will help me experience peace and healing as I move forward. That's my prayer for each and every one of us. May you take it today, process it through your family, the people around you that have hurt you, and begin to decide, are you going to take revenge or are you going to forgive and begin to live your life differently? Let me pray for us. God, this morning, I thank you. I thank you that you forgave us, right? That it all started with you. You saw the brokenness in each and every one of us, and not just those of us in this room or watching online or those who are alive today, God, but those who were alive thousands of years ago and those who will live way after us, God. You looked at all of us. You saw us all at one time, and you said, I forgive them all. And you sent your son, Jesus. God, thank you that through the forgiveness that you sent us, by accepting you as our Savior, God, we personally can experience peace and healing. And then, God, thank you that as we forgive those around us, on a way personal, micro level, we can experience the peace and the healing that comes through you and from you. God, give us the courage to leave room for your wrath, to deal with those who have wronged us. Help us to see forgiveness as something that's free to give, and then to live a life knowing that we can trust you to take care of the rest. And I pray all these things in your son's name. Amen.